My story today involves a group that I'm going to call Canopy.
Culture.
Culture Cannabis.
Culture
Sorry,
Cannabis.
geez.
Yeah.
These C's wrong.
Canopy was the
This
first
is,
story.
Yeah. This is a lawsuit that was filed, I think, on Friday of last week in the federal court in Los Angeles by 3 investors who claim they dropped over $9 million into an investment group based upon the representations of some individuals, and that their promises weren't ever put in writing, that they kept being strung along. And so they decided to run into federal court and sue this group for, among other things, federal RICO violations. Now, I took the time to read the complaint. In full disclosure, I've encountered this group before. And there's an entire list of companies here. And what it looks like happened is that one of the main guys here, his name is Tommy Lee, he cross-pollinated a bunch of different companies. And these companies, it's not unusual, and I've done this myself, to set up layers of corporations for tax benefits, and also maybe to hold real estate, to hold investments, to manage operations. And when you hold a plant touching license, that company, I set them up as corporations, and then we move everything we can away from the plant touching company for 280E reasons, just because it's a mess. If you touch a plant, you can only write off the cost of goods sold. Anyway, so the point here is that it's not unusual to set up layers of businesses to bring money in, perhaps buy or oversee real estate, manage corporations, oversee investments. Well, the claim here of these 3 investors that they met this guy, Tommy Lee, in 2016, apparently believed him that he knew what he was doing about cannabis. And so in 2021, came back to these investors, Mr. Lee did, and asked them for money. He's going to give them, I think, 15% in some business if they covered a percentage, and then anything over $250,000 for startup costs. They did it. There was another business opportunity. You're going to get some other portion of a business, drop some money in. And all along, they were sending money, but no one was sending them back written contracts. And let me just stop right there and tell you that if you're going to drop hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars into a risky investment, and you're going to do it on a wink and a nod and a handshake, and I think your mama may have dropped you on your head a lot when you were a child. This is not advised to be doing, okay? Because this now, there's no written contracts. All we have is allegations. This is a complaint, and allegations that they induced us into dropping over $9.1 million without a written agreement. Okay, and if you look up the definition of insanity in the dictionary, you're going to see this scenario. This is not advisable to do. Okay, find yourself an attorney. If you've got $1 million to invest, you've got some thousands of dollars to find a decent business attorney. Okay, so what it appears happened here is that money was taken in, and these individuals, as I said, cross-pollinated these different businesses. They were CEOs, CFOs, they were on the payrolls, money was being spent on them. They were pursuing primarily dispensary licenses around California, one cultivation facility. And it seems that in one of these licenses, someone forgot to send in the renewal application, so they lost it. Another one, the business burned to the ground and no one tried to do anything to revitalize the business and get a business operating permit. So we have what appears to be allegations of incompetence on the part of the culture group and all their different layers of businesses. But now that they've made this claim, and these are basically allegations, I'm curious to see how culture comes back because, as I said, I've dealt with these folks before, and secrecy is one of the elements that I've had to deal with them. They don't really fully disclose all that they're doing. So I'm going to be curious to see how they respond to this, because if any part of this is true, and they're looking at some serious problems. RICO is brought in. They call this an enterprise to break through all the corporate veils, to make everybody personally liable. They want constructive trust set up. They want an accounting. They want trouble damages. It's unfair business practices. They threw every handful of mud they could find against the wall. So we'll see what sticks here. So, long and the short, simple lesson here: before you start throwing money at an investment, get it in writing beforehand. Okay, throwing it back at you guys. What do you think?
Well, Dale, there's so much more to this story right here. So Ben, who is the person that filed this lawsuit against Culture Cannabis, Ben is their lead investor within Culture Cannabis. Okay. Ben blew the whistle on the fraudulent actions committed by Culture. And then Green Rocket was a distribution company that was based out of Long Beach. And Green Rocket was Culture's distribution partner. And Culture racked up a $5 million debt on Green Rocket's metric. Because they were their retail distribution partner. Green Rocket subsequently was forced to close as of February 1st, 2024 due to non-payment by Culture, and Green Rocket employed 40 people who were all let go on or before February 1st. Culture Cannabis was basically using Green Rocket's credit to expand their footprint by not paying vendors and leaving Green Rocket with the bill. And Culture is a retail chain with 9 to 10 retails throughout the state, with an estimated 14 to 15 licenses in total in California.
Well, there's some scandalous stuff going on here.
Let me just tell you, these guys are terrible. And I am just sitting here in my mind saying, what can I say without getting sued for slander or libel? When I was the director of real estate at CanDev, I dealt with this Tommy Lee guy, and he was the slimiest person that I had to interact with, such that we also ended in litigation. He was absolutely dishonest. And at one point, he called me a slanderous name because I was baiting him into a reaction while we were on calls with both of our attorneys. And I told him quite simply on that call, come say that to my face, buddy. The way in which he approached, and of course that didn't happen, right? Because everybody's tough over the phone. The way in which they go about doing business is terrible. And he introduced me to one of his prospective investors in New York for a deal that we were doing in Ohio. And because he didn't want to do the work of closing his own investor when he was going to be the tenant for CanDev. He ended up circling around CanDev, circumvented, purchased the property from the owner that CanDev had been in contract with. And this is nowhere near civil fraud. This is criminal. And I'm just going to say it, there's a RICO on this show, but there's also a RICO law. And this guy should not be allowed to give the cannabis industry a bad residual taste, because he's absolutely full of, what's that word that Dale uses every time he's on this show? Bovine scatology is a nice word. Yeah.
Would you say that they're pissing up a rope, Dale?
Pissing up a rope.
Yeah. I mean, if we can weed out, all pun intended, some of the bad actors in this industry, everybody else wins. And this guy is as slimy and as disingenuous as they come.
Well, I can guarantee you one thing, Yarrow. When they speak my name, they don't have anything nice to say, because I called them out myself. I've been on the phone with these clowns, and I just think they're, to be quite frankly, full of shit. I had a social equity client that they, in my view, did not treat well.
And it's just hilarious to me that the name is Culture, because that's the opposite of what's occurring within that organization based on the interactions that I had.
Well, maybe it is appropriate that they use this. They just left out another word, which would be culture vultures.
I mean,
I guarantee you, these folks didn't lose money, Yarrow. They all got away with money in their pockets.
Yeah.
That's for damn straight.
Exactly.
Well, I hope that we have a continued purging of the people who I don't think are good unofficial ambassadors for the space. These are the types of actors that are not going to help grow the industry, in my opinion.
What were you going to say, Rico?
Call them the Vulture Club.
Oh, the Vulture Club. And on that, we're going to go to a commercial, and we are going to be right back.